Hey, we are now joined by Joey Logano, driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford for Team Penske. We're going to go straight into questions, and our first question will come from Bob Pockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Joey, do the dynamics or the keys to performing well in the chase change with no practice, no qualifying, and all the playoff drivers starting up front?
I mean, yeah, we got to find ways to I don't know if it changes really. I mean, the dynamics are, just as important to win as ever during the playoffs. So that part doesn't change. No practice makes it always questionable, but we're almost used to that at this point with no practice and not knowing what's coming around the corner next to start and not knowing who's fast. It changes the dynamics of the race a little bit, but we've kind of gotten used to it. So kind of what you've seen here the last few races since we got back going will probably be more of that to continue, where there may be some teams that hit it really fast and others that need to make big swings on their adjustments, and it's kind of how you get to that point as quickly as possible. So I don't think the playoffs kind of change what we've been doing here the last few weeks.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Heather Williams. Go ahead with your question, Heather.
Hey, Joey. The first round of the playoffs wraps up with Bristol. I know it's a track that you like a lot. What do you think about Bristol as a cutoff race?
I'm cool with it. I think it's definitely going to add some drama. We all kind of seen what kind of drama Daytona brought last week with it being the last race of the regular season and how exciting that is. So for the sport, it's great. For the teams, a little stressful because, anything can happen. We've seen strategy work a lot of different ways at Bristol. We've seen contact at Bristol. So a lot of things can happen, but I think for the most part, we just got to, do our thing. And, but I think, the fact that the cutoff races are stressful already, and then they're at tracks that are, anything can happen, it definitely adds a lot to it. But, I think for the sport, that's a great thing.
Our next question will come from Jenna Fryer. Go ahead with your question, Jenna.
Hey, Joey. Steve Phelps said yesterday that there will be no changes to the COVID rules, that if a driver tests positive, that you won't get points. And if a playoff driver tests positive, that'll probably end your playoff chances. What precautions will you take and or would you be hesitant to go get tested?
No, I think it's important for us to, number one, our safety needs to be at the utmost concern. Just for everybody, not just for ourselves, right? Not in a selfish way, but in a selfless way. We need to be smart about testing. Now, also, we need to be smart about what we see and how we do things and all that as much as ever. As the world's starting to open up slowly and things like that, I think for these 10 weeks, I probably still need to be smart about it because my season is on the line. So, I think we just keep doing the same things we've been doing, right? You wash your hands, you wear the mask, you social distance. Those are the things that you can do. It's also important that we need to win this thing too. And as you guys know, sometimes, doing everything through this Zoom isn't as effective as you want it to be. And it's the same when you're trying to lead a team. So just trying to do things the smartest way possible, trying to lead a team from a distance, but in times where it's important to see people or do things, those are the moments you just got to make the most of. But also, like I said, be careful about the way we do it.
Our next question is going to come from Dustin Long. Go ahead with your question, Dustin.
Thank you. Joey, just to kind of carry on that and talk about the leadership aspect of it, having to do it through Zoom. Are you almost less of a leader this year? Is this almost more, in this sense, Paul's team as opposed to you and when years past Todd because of the less connection?
In ways, I have to agree with that. I don't want to agree with that. I want to be the leader and with Paul, but my hands are tied. There's only so much, we can do. Penske's done a good job at trying to, keep everyone separated to where if there was an outbreak, it doesn't shut down the whole.
Get the COVID, you don't win the championship.
So, I don't know who that was, but that was, I think in general, we're trying to be as smart as we can. And it's hard to throw everyone up on a Zoom call and speak directly to somebody. Been a little harder for me this year too, because it's a new team. And I'm typically the guy that's, in the garage till the garage closes. That's it. The way I led was by being present, and building relationships. It's been a little harder to do that this year, for sure. But we have to find unique ways of trying to gather the team together, right, and rally the troops. That's it's a little bit different, but it's different for everybody, and we have to be creative and find new ways. So is it as good as I want to be? No, it's definitely not as good as I want it to be, but I feel like we've done a good job at being creative and trying to find ways to keep everyone together as a team, even though
I also want to ask you this weekend, I know Darlington pit road entry is always a challenging thing. With the way the pit stalls have selected, Paul selected the last pit stall, one nearest pit entrance for you. That's been something that he's done a lot here, especially lately. Last year, I know in previous years with Todd always wanted to be up toward the front. I understand you're a professional, but is it more challenging, or what is it you have to adjust to with the pit stalls at the entrance? And will it be any more challenging with Darlington if there is a green flag stop?
It's funny you bring that up, because that's been the running joke here for Team Penske for a little bit, is that, Todd will always go furthest forward possible. And Paul will be the guy that kind of, go back and forth on just trying to figure out what's best for that particular weekend. So the first few weeks was a little bit odd, because I'm used to being all the way down at the other end, and I didn't want to drive by the stall. But now it's been kind of gotten used to it, and Paul's done a good job at some pit selections and stuff. And that was one of the things that we went through in the beginning of the year, is that, what works for me with pit stalls, and what direction can we get the best rolling times with, and each racetrack's different. Some narrow pit roads are different than the wide ones, and pit openings and bigger than others, and obviously timing lines. There's a lot that goes into that game. It's not a random selection sometimes, as much as some people think. There's a lot that goes into that. I don't know if there's one more challenging than the other, being in the front or the back. It just affects the just more or less the strategy of how do we have the best rolling time at the end of pit road.
Thank you.
And before we go to our next question, just a reminder, if you can please limit yourself to one question. We'll try to get to follow-ups if time allows. We do have a lot of questions for Joey. We're going to go next to Jeff Gluck. Go ahead with the question, Jeff.
Joey, I'm wondering if you can name a surprise team or a dark horse team that you think might be able to make a run that people aren't necessarily talking about.
I would say probably the 10. I'm looking at a dark horse team that's maybe not everyone's talking about. I think there's the obvious ones, right, that are going to be fast. You get Kevin, Denny. I think we're in that mix. Brad's in that mix. Chase will be in that mix. But the 10's been kind of sneaky and just consistent. Nothing flashy, but just kind of doing his thing. So I'd say that's one car that can probably get pretty far through on. They got pretty good speed. They don't make much mistakes, and they just kind of get through. And the first couple of rounds, that's one of the things that this playoff system rewards. The first couple of rounds is being consistent.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yep.
Next question will come from Pete Iacobelli. Go with the question, Pete.
Joey, I know it's only a few months ago that you guys were at Darlington, but it probably seems like such a different time back then. If you look back on it, how much of a success was that week at Darlington when there were so many unknowns, and the pride that all you drivers take? Because obviously, if it went the wrong way, we might not be running any races right now.
100%. And I don't think it's the pride that the drivers take; it's the pride that the whole industry should take. The drivers sometimes they just show up and we do what they tell us to do. But when I think of the collaboration that it took from everybody in our sport, right? Media, race teams, NASCAR, everybody had drivers as well, had to come together to find a way to take advantage of the opportunity of being the first sport back without completely blowing it and having a COVID outbreak and being the first team to come back, or the first sport to come back and be shut right back down, right? And we look like a bunch of fools, right? We didn't want to do that either. So everyone did an amazing job. And that starts from the leadership at NASCAR and trying to find a way to be first back and do it in a safe way and continue going. And sports learned from us, right? Other sports watched us because we were the first back. They had nothing else to watch, so they had to see it. And that was the opportunity ahead of us, is that there wasn't any other content out there at the time from a sporting perspective. So, I love the term when people say when there's a crisis, there's an opportunity, and we took advantage of that opportunity. So yeah, there's some pride in that, and we should be proud of that.
Our next question will come from Kelly Crandall. Go ahead with the question, Kelly.
Thank you. Joey, given what this season has been with the pandemic, the restrictions, everything that has been different this year, what is it going to mean to a team to win the championship in 2020?
Nothing less than it would have if it was a normal year. And nothing more. It's a championship, right? And that's all that matters, right? Is the trophy on the little thing back here. And it's reminding me how badly we want it. And no matter what the rules are, they're the same for everybody. And there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And we just approach it the same ways. And yes, we have to do things differently to achieve that trophy than we would have if it was a normal year. But, the cards are dealt and we know what we got, and we just got to play them the best we can.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Scott Chansey. Go ahead with the question, Scott.
Joey, how does Darlington suit your racing style?
I think it fits fairly well. It's been a good racetrack for us. I don't have a win there, but it's been a racetrack that we've consistently been able to run in the top 5, and lead laps and be close. Just need a couple things to go our way to be able to win there. So one of my favorite racetracks to go to. I like that the tires wear out and you can't go hard every lap, and you got to be smart on how you're using your tires. And yet there's still some aggression that you need to have on how close you run to the wall and moving around and finding places where there's more grip as the run goes. It's a very enjoyable race for a driver. It's grueling. It's very tiring. It's at the end of 500 miles there. You're more exhausted than any other racetrack we go to. It's a long race where you can't afford to make a mistake, especially in the playoffs. I'm tapping the fence and getting a flat tire or whatever it may be. So you just got to be smart, and it's long, and it's mentally and physically very tiring.
Our next question will come from Ben Johnston. Go ahead with your question, Ben.
Thank you. Hey, Joey, congratulations on making it into the playoffs. How much confidence do you have, obviously, following a consistent season, going into the rest of the season and into the playoffs? How much kind of consistency do you need to bring into the playoffs, having come from like a strong start, like a strong season, so to speak?
Yeah, we just need to continue the confidence and the consistency we've had over the last few weeks. If you take Daytona out, we've been able to string together quite a few top 10 finishes and put ourselves in position to possibly win with some things going our way. So no need to come off of that. We need to continue to slowly build, and become stronger as a team, right? You're not going to find one thing that's going to be a light switch that's going to put us all the way to where the 4 and the 11 are, but we're not far off. We're 2 or 3 little things away from that. And this year is just reminding me of 2018, which is a great season for me, where we had some growing pains and some things we had to learn throughout the regular season, and we slowly built the speed back up for the playoffs. And next thing you know, we won 2 of the most important races and we win the championship, right? It just has that feeling to me throughout the regular season. So I feel like for those reasons, I'm as confident as anybody rolling into this thing, in our race team and myself, because we've been here before. We've done this before. So we're ready to rock.
Excellent. Best of luck. Thanks, Matt.
Yep. Our next question will come from Steve Schweitzer. Go ahead with the question, Steve.
Joe, you start the playoffs with 22 bonus points, which gives you a little bit of an advantage on most of the field. Do the stage points take an added importance during the playoffs, and how will that affect your team's strategy over the next 9 races?
It does. Every point's going to matter, right? We've seen plenty of times where, a team makes it or not make it by 1 point. Sometimes it's tied and it goes to your best finish, right? That happens a lot. So every point matters, and you just need to race that way because you don't know what that point's going to be worth at the end of the day. So that part is probably, it's a little bit, that intensity piece comes up a little bit. I don't think it changes much for me because I've already raced that way, because I look at that as, the regular season points, how it just turned into playoff points as the end of the regular season came around. I look at that the same way where, we have 7 or 8 more regular season points that could have been 1 more playoff point, right? And that's over the course of 26 races. So we just got to continue to have that mindset to where every point matters at every point of the race.
Our next question will come from Rebecca Cunningham. Go ahead with your question, Rebecca.
Hi, Joey. My name is Rebecca. I'm with Legacy Maker Sports Network. You have 2 other teammates that are currently in the chase, and we have another basically restrictor plate or tapered space and engine at Talladega. Are Team Penske going to try to work together to secure a win, or is it you're in the chase now, all for one, going at it that way?
No, I think we all need to still work together when you go to the super speedways. The game has changed at super speedways here the last few years with teamwork. And, as you see, not only the teams themselves working together, as if Penske or Hendrick or Stewart Haas or whoever work together on the racetrack, but you see the manufacturers really work together. You see the Fords, you see the Chevys, the Toyotas kind of on their own little island sometimes, whether it's strategy or even within the group, trying to position themselves to take control of the race. So I don't see that changing because we're in the playoffs. I might even see that building.
Our next question is going to come from Davey Segal. Go ahead with your question, Davey.
Thank you, Matt. Joey, your 2 wins on the season came before the break for the pandemic. A, does that feel as long ago to you as it does to everybody else? And B, where do you think you guys were momentum-wise back then compared to where you are now? Because you mentioned the streak of top 10 finishes besides Daytona.
Yes, it feels like a long time ago to answer your first part of that question. Way too long. We're ready to win again. But I do feel like we're getting close back to that same point as we were. To me, there's no doubt when we went back racing, we weren't where we wanted to be. I even said it a few times, kind of like a lost puppy, not knowing what road to go down to get back to where we need to be. And it's hard to find that direction without practice. And, and going to a different racetrack every week, it's hard to grow. It took longer than we wanted it to, longer than we expected it to. But I feel like we're getting really close back to where we were in the beginning of the year, where we can get ourselves in position to win again. And I feel like we're right at it. So I do feel pretty good about it.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Yep, thanks.
Our next question will come from Mark Garrow with PRN. Go ahead with your question, Mark.
Thank you. First off, I was kind of late to the program, so I apologize if this question's been asked. I was listening to a comment from Eric Jones yesterday from some audio that he had last week about you guys talking about his situation at Joe Gibbs and the similarities. I guess you reached out because of the similarities of the situation. Was your message to him or your reason reaching out to say, look, I've been there, done that, it turns out okay? Just what went into that?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out because I feel like I've been there before and I just wanted to. I watched his interview before the race at Michigan. I sit in my bus and he was at Marty Snyder. And the question was asked about next year and what it was. And I said, oh my God, I remember this. Like it just came rushing back and I was like, oh, this poor kid. And so I texted him on the way home on the airplane and said, hey man, like I've been where you've been before. If you need someone to talk to about it, not many people can understand exactly what you're going through right now. I'm here. If you want to talk about it, that's great. If not, it's fine too. He reached back and said he wanted to go to lunch. I said, sure, we'll go to lunch. And his question was, what changed from Gibbs to Penske in my career? And hearing his whole story is scary. How similar it is. Like, it is almost identical. The way he was brought up racing, the way he was at Gibbs, and it's almost identical. That being said, you can't tell the future and know that where he's going to go next, and it's all going to be great and it'd be the best thing that ever happened to him. But I did say that God put you in these positions a lot of times to make you stronger and grow you and direct you in the place that he wants you to be. And in the moment, you don't know that. In the moment, it's the worst, right? It's like, it's awful. The stress. And I remember thinking so many times that, oh my gosh, all I ever wanted to be was a race car driver. I put all my eggs in this basket and it's coming to an end. What am I going to do with my life? Like, those thoughts went through my mind. And it's kind of scary. It's really scary, if we're being honest. And it's kind of hard to explain to some people, because you're still driving a race car for a living, and it's not that bad in comparison to what a lot of people have to go through. But it's still something that's challenging. And doing that without your dad there, for him, it's got to be really, because that's the guy he grew up racing with his family and his dad, and I just couldn't imagine doing that without him. So I just tried to speak some life into kind of my situation and what can be for his. And it doesn't mean that he's going to win the championship 3 years from now, like we were able to do. It's not going to. Who knows what's going to happen? But I do know that it's steering him down a direction that God is pointing him to be. And like I said, I just felt so similar that I had to say something. And after talking to him, it was crazy how close it was. So the whole situation all the way through, it's like, yep, I've been there. So kind of fun to talk to him. And I hope something works out for him. I really do. He seems to be a really good kid. And I say kid, I sound like an old guy when I say that, but young man, I guess. But he's grown a lot already in a lot of the same ways that I have, right? I came in as a cocky, little arrogant little kid that was going to come in and beat everybody. And then I realized that I got a lot of work ahead of me to do. And, him showing his humbleness to talk to me about that shows a lot of growth as well.
Thank you, Joey.
Thanks, man.
Okay, Joey, thanks for taking the time, and good luck during the playoffs.
Appreciate it, guys.
Take care.
Hope to see you soon. I've had enough of this. See ya.
We'll next be joined at 12:18 by Austin